The rain fell sideways that morning, pricking the skin and wetting the mud outside Sheriff Calloway's barn. It had not ceased for hours. The ground was a bog, the air filled with the scent of damp horses and cheap tobacco. A hasty auction pen had been erected, 3 off-center fence posts, a splintered bench, and enough whiskey among the men to sour what decency remained in the group. They haggled half-hearted offers on broken saddles, rusty farm tools, and furs snapped from God knows where. Then the sheriff, red-faced and bloated, produced something even more merciless. 2 Apache sisters, the younger, hardly 15, as thin as a willow switch, her face wan under a tangle of dirty black hair, swayed on her feet, fever raging through her small body. The elder stood tall at her side, perhaps 24, her long skirt dripping with rain. Her chin never dropped, not even when the sheriff pushed her forward like an animal. "These 2 here," he snarled, "are from up north, orphans, caught prowling around an old station house. Untamed, but they might be broke in. Suitable for housework. Reasonable price today. Can't guarantee they'd be here tomorrow." The men guffawed. One grumbled that the tall one was too arrogant to clean floors. Another laughed she'd snap easily if you kept the reins tight enough. That's when a single voice cut through the storm. "I'll take them both." The laughter died. Rain pattered on hat brims. A tall man stepped forward, broad-shouldered, plain clothes of canvas and leather, a patched coat over one arm. "Thomas Cade." The sheriff squinted. "You what?" Cade didn't answer with words. He laid a single silver coin on the crate beside him. "They ride with me now." The older sister, Senna, looked at him with narrowed eyes. She didn't give her trust easily, and certainly not to men. She had no idea he was different from the others. They set out in his wagon, wheels creaking through soggy prairie grass. The younger sister, Tula, wrapped herself into a ball under the pelts and fell into a fitful sleep. Senna remained sitting, arms crossed tight. "You purchase slaves?" she said in a flat tone. "No," Cade answered without glancing at her. "I purchase peace." She cocked her head. "And you expect us to provide you with that?" "Not yet," he said. "But perhaps you will." At his cabin, a small pine-framed dwelling west of the trail, he assisted Tula downstairs first, then pushed open the door. "You take the bed," he said. "Both of you. I'll stay in the barn." Senna frowned. "Why?" He paused in the doorway. "Because it's decent." And with that he was gone. The subsequent days were subdued but strained. Senna slept in her boots, never for more than a few hours at the time. Tula's fever broke and came on again. Cade appeared and disappeared, bringing herbs, broth, and tiny presents left without apology. A cedar comb, a spoon hand-whittled. Senna didn't know if she was supposed to keep them or burn them in the stove. The town was not as hospitable as the barnyard group. In Dawson's general store, there were whispers behind them like specters. Women tugged on children to get out of the way. A hunched old widow, Mrs. Rowan, said, "Shameful. Bringing them here like mongrels." The clerk didn't look up as Senna approached the counter. "We don't serve." Cade slapped down a silver dollar on the wood. "They're with me." It wasn't the first time he'd stood like a wall between her and cruelty. Nevertheless, Senna remained silent. That evening, she swept the same corner of the cabin repeatedly, mended her sister's shawl, repaired a torn curtain. Anything to keep her shaking hands occupied while words she would not speak seared in her breast. Cade sat in the corner, polishing tack, his eyes steady on her. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, certain. "You're not a servant." Senna paused mid-sweep, sweat beading along her brow. "Then what am I?" "A guest." She glared away, but something inside her chest turned over. A faint savoring of a memory she had believed long past. Her mother's fingers, braiding her hair, referring to her as Wind's daughter. Her father's song in the twilight while whittling arrow shafts. She had not known peace since they were taken from her. And in this man's stillness, there was something she could near confuse with safety. One evening, Tula's cough thickened into a rasp that rattled her thin body. Her skin was hotter than coal. Senna was frantic, striding back and forth in the cabin, powerless. In silence, Cade saddled his horse and disappeared into the dark woods, following only moonlight and intuition. At dawn, he came back, drenched, chilled, with willow bark, tea leaves in hand, and leading an elderly mountain healer. By darkness, Tula's fever broke. Senna wiped the wet hair from her sister's cheek. In the doorway, Cade stood waiting. They locked eyes. She stood up, moved across the room, and laid her hand on his arm. "Thank you," she whispered. He only nodded. Weeks passed, and winter arrived in white, heavy drifts. Snow filled in the rugged hills and filled the forest with a silver cathedral. Cade showed Tula how to pile kindling. Senna started caring for the hens. At night, she'd sit across from him at the fire sometimes. Two souls lost in thought, but bound by an unseen cord. He'd slip her the last piece of bread in silence. She'd leave a repaired glove on his workbench before dawn. They never discussed what those gestures implied, until one evening. The fire had burned down. Tula slept in the adjacent room. Senna sat near enough to sense the warmth from his arm. "You could have left us," she whispered. "Why didn't you?" He did not glance at her. Didn't want to. That simple. He hesitated for a moment, then continued. "When I purchased you, I didn't realize I was purchasing my own peace." Her mouth opened, a wounded look in her eyes. "I'm sorry," he muttered hastily. "You're not mine. Never were. I didn't say it like that." She walked out of the room without a word. He did not pursue. On the next night, she had discovered him in the barn, mending a bridle under the golden glow of a lantern. "If we aren't yours," she asked quietly, "then why ride through a storm for bark?" He did not immediately answer. "Because," he said finally, "I'd have done it even if you hated me." "I don't hate you," she whispered. Their breath mingled in the cold air. "You're tough," he told her. "Tougher than anyone I've ever met." Senna's throat constricted. She brushed his hands aside and took the bridle. "I can tie this." Trouble came with morning. The sheriff sat on the porch, jawing a sprig of grass, his smirk as arrogant as ever. "You didn't sign the paper," he told her. "They're still unclaimed. I could drag them back tomorrow, and nobody'd stop me." "I'd stop you," Cade said bluntly. "You'd shoot a lawman?" "You're not the law." Cade's eyes hardened. "You're a vulture." The sheriff's hand twitched toward his holster. Then Senna stepped into the doorway. "You won't touch us," she said. Behind her, Tula appeared, clutching a hatchet. The sheriff looked from Cade to the women and saw something unmovable. He muttered under his breath and rode away. That evening, Cade sat by the flames, something concealed under the bench. He pulled it out, a bundle of leather. Within was a ring, shaped from antler, white and rounded, marked with feathers and pine needles. "I don't want to claim you," he repeated, his voice shaking, "but I'd be so proud if you remained as my wife." Senna gazed at the ring, her breath stuck. Then she glanced at him. "You already gave me a home," she breathed, and grasped his hand. They married under bare winter branches with only Tula to see. No preacher, no townspeople. Only the wind, the pines, and a love forged in mercy. Senna wore her mother's shell necklace. Cade wore a clean shirt she had stitched. Snowflakes swirled around them as she kissed his cheek and said, "On your knees as you are now, you are not a man who purchases women. You are a man who rescues souls." On this night, when the fire burned, Senna sang gently, the same lullaby her mother used to sing to the wind. Tula slept under a blanket. Cade listened with closed eyes. For the first time in years, she was human again. And he was whole. Sometimes love is not loud. Sometimes it comes in quiet boots, bringing a blanket rather than a promise. And sometimes the best homes are constructed not of wood, but of patience, firelight, and mercy. If this one awakens something quiet in you, click the next one sitting on your screen. It goes deeper than this one ever did.